The Mason family brunch was held at the country club every first Sunday. White tablecloths, mimosas, and carefully maintained appearances, everything the Masons valued. I'd been avoiding these brunches for 2 years, but today was special. Today, I had information. I walked into the club's dining room wearing jeans and a simple sweater, deliberately casual compared to everyone else's designer outfits. My sister-in-law, Victoria, spotted me immediately, her face twisting in disgust. "Oh my God," she announced loudly, "look what the cat dragged in. Didn't know this establishment allowed beggars." 20 heads turned. My brother Marcus looked uncomfortable. My mother sighed. My father didn't even look up from his menu. "Hello, Victoria." I smiled pleasantly and took the empty seat next to Marcus. "Excuse me?" Victoria stood up, her voice shrill. "You can't just sit here. This is a private family brunch. We have standards." "I'm family," I pointed out. "Last I checked, being Marcus's sister still counts." "Sister who dresses like she shops at thrift stores," Victoria sneered. "Sister who drives a 10-year-old car. Sister who works as a—" She paused dramatically. "What is it you do again? Some boring bank job?" "I'm a financial analyst." "How thrilling." Meanwhile, Marcus and I are doing amazing. He just made partner at his law firm, and we're closing on our dream home next week. We're actually successful. She turned to the table. I don't know why she even comes to these things. It's embarrassing having her here. Several cousins laughed. My Aunt Patricia looked away. My mother finally spoke up. "Nicole, maybe you should." "Should what, Mom? Leave? Stop embarrassing Victoria by existing?" I pulled a large manila envelope from my bag and set it on the table. "Actually, I think I'll stay. I have some things to share." "What is that?" Marcus asked, his voice tight. "Documents, information, truth." I looked at Victoria. "You mentioned I work at a bank. You're right. I'm a senior financial analyst at Riverside National Bank. I've worked there for 8 years, moving up from entry level to my current position." "How nice for you," Victoria said sarcastically. "I'm sure it's very fulfilling stamping papers and filing folders." "I don't stamp papers. I analyze financial risks for high net worth clients and commercial accounts. I evaluate creditworthiness, detect patterns of financial fraud, and advise on debt restructuring." I paused. "I also review loan applications and identify red flags." Marcus had gone pale. "Nicole." "Red flags like—" I opened the envelope and pulled out the first document. Someone taking out 17 different credit cards in 18 months, using them to make cash advances, maxing them out, then taking new cards to pay off the old ones. I spread the credit card statements across the table. Marcus has $427,000 in credit card debt across 17 different cards. Interest rates ranging from 18% to 29%. Minimum monthly payments totaling $11,500. "Where did you get those?" Victoria's voice had lost its confidence. "Banks share information. When someone applies for this many cards this quickly, it triggers fraud alerts." Marcus's applications came across my desk 3 months ago for review. "That's private," Marcus started. "It's also concerning, so I did some digging. I pulled out more documents. Marcus has been gambling. Heavily. Online poker, sports betting, casino visits. I have transaction records from the past 2 years showing $2.3 million in total gambling losses." The table erupted. $2 million? My father finally looked up. $2.3 million, I corrected. He won some back, but the net loss is $1.9 million. The credit cards are how he's been covering the losses and keeping Victoria from finding out. Victoria was frozen, staring at the papers. "That's not possible." "Marcus doesn't gamble." "Marcus has a gambling addiction," I said gently. "He's been hiding it well. The late nights working on cases, poker games, the weekend conferences, casino trips, the work bonuses he told you about, money he borrowed and lied about." "You're lying," Victoria whispered, but her voice shook. "I wish I was." I pulled out bank statements. These show cash advances, transfers to gambling sites, ATM withdrawals at casinos. The pattern is clear and documented. Marcus put his head in his hands. "Nicole, please stop. I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing this because it gets worse." I pulled out another document. "This is your mortgage application for that dream home you're closing on next week. You told the bank you have $200,000 for the down payment." "We do," Victoria said. Marcus said. Marcus lied. "The $200,000 is borrowed money. personal loans from 3 different lenders at predatory rates. He's planning to use debt to make a down payment on a $1.8 million house you can't afford. The bank approved us, Victoria protested. The bank approved you based on fraudulent information. Marcus claimed your household income was $450,000. His actual income is $180,000. He inflated the numbers, provided fake tax returns, and lied about existing debts. I laid out the evidence, the real tax returns versus the fake ones he'd submitted, the debt disclosures he falsified, and the income statements he manufactured. This is mortgage fraud, I said. It's a federal crime. If the bank discovers this before closing, which they will because I'm reporting it, the loan will be denied. If they discover it after closing, Marcus could face criminal charges. Victoria was crying now. Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to destroy us? I'm not trying to destroy you. I'm trying to save you from destroying yourselves. I pulled out more documents. You asked why I came today. I came because Marcus's financial house of cards is collapsing. The credit cards are maxed. The minimum payments exceed his take-home pay. In 3 weeks, he'll start defaulting. We'll figure it out, Marcus mumbled. You can't figure it out. The math doesn't work. Even if you stop gambling today, you owe $1.9 million plus interest. Your income can't cover it. You're going to lose everything. What do you care? Victoria spat. You just said I was embarrassing, that I didn't belong here. Why do you care if we lose everything? Because despite everything, Marcus is my brother. And you're about to close on a house using fraudulent documents, which will make everything worse. You'll have a mortgage you can't pay, debt you can't service, and potential criminal charges hanging over your head. I pulled out one final document. This is a foreclosure notice. Not for the house you're buying, for the condo you're living in now. The one Marcus told you was paid off? He took out a second mortgage 2 years ago, $400,000, and used it for gambling. He hasn't made a payment in 4 months. The bank is foreclosing. You have 60 days before eviction. Victoria let out a sound between a sob and a scream. You're lying. This is all lies. It's all documented. All true. All available in public records if anyone bothered to look. I looked at my brother. I bothered to look because your loan applications were so suspicious they triggered every fraud alert we have. What are we supposed to do? Marcus asked, his voice broken. First, you cancel the house closing. Tell them you can't proceed. You'll lose the deposit, but that's better than mortgage fraud charges. But that's our dream home, Victoria started. Your dream home was built on $2 million in debt and lies. It was never real. I pulled out another paper. Second, you need help. Real help. I've made an appointment with a gambling addiction counselor for Tuesday. I've also contacted a bankruptcy attorney. Your financial situation is unsalvageable. Bankruptcy is your only option. Bankruptcy? My father finally spoke up. Absolutely not. No Mason has ever declared bankruptcy. Then maybe someone should help Marcus with his $2 million problem. I shot back. Can you write a check for that, Dad? Because if not, bankruptcy is the only way out. Silence. Third, I continued, Victoria, you need to separate your finances from Marcus immediately. Open your own bank account. Move your income there. Protect yourself because when his debts collapse, creditors will come after everything. You're telling me to leave my husband? Victoria asked. I'm telling you to protect yourself legally and financially. Whether you stay married is up to you. But right now, your name is on some of these accounts. When Marcus defaults, they'll garnish your wages too. This is insane, Victoria whispered. This is consequences. Marcus made choices, bad choices for 2 years. Now those choices have caught up to him. I looked at my brother. I'm sorry, I really am. But this intervention needed to happen before you committed federal crimes and made everything worse. Why didn't you tell me privately? Marcus asked. I tried. I called you 4 times last week. You didn't answer. I texted you the first page of your credit report. You blocked my number. I gestured to the table. So I came here, knowing Victoria would make a scene, knowing everyone would be watching. Because you needed witnesses. You needed accountability. You needed people to see the truth so you couldn't keep lying. My mother was crying quietly. My father looked as if he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Victoria sat frozen, staring at the documents that had just destroyed her perfect life. I know you hate me right now, I said to Victoria. You called me a beggar, said I was embarrassing, said I didn't belong here. And maybe you're right. I've never fit in with this family's obsession with appearances and status. But I'm the only one who saw what was happening. I'm the only one who cared enough to stop it before it got worse. How could it get worse? Victoria asked bitterly. The mortgage fraud. That's 5 years in federal prison. The foreclosure? That destroys your credit for at least 7 years. The gambling debts? Those people Marcus owes money to? Some of them aren't banks. Some of them are much more dangerous than missed credit card payments. Marcus looked up sharply. What do you mean? I mean $400,000 of your debt is to private lenders. 3 different ones. With interest rates over 40%. The kind of lenders who don't go through legal channels for collection. I pulled out the final papers. These are the loan agreements. Read the fine print. Read what happens when you default. Marcus read, his face going gray. Oh God. What? Victoria grabbed the papers. She read, then looked like she might be sick. They can take our house, our car, or everything. And that's just the legal stuff they put in writing. The illegal enforcement methods aren't documented. I looked at Marcus. How far behind are you? 2 months. Then you have maybe 2 weeks before enforcement begins. That's another reason I came today. That's another reason this needed to be public. Because these people need to know you have family watching. They need to know you're not alone or unprotected. My father finally took charge. Marcus, you're moving back home. Tonight, both of you. We'll figure out the debts, the foreclosure, everything. But you're not staying alone where those people can find you easily. Dad, I'm 40 years old, Marcus protested weakly. And you're $2 million in debt to loan sharks. Your pride is not the priority here. Nicole, can you arrange a meeting with that bankruptcy attorney? Already done. Tuesday at 2 p.m. He knows the full situation. Good. Dad looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in years. You did the right thing. Coming here, making it public. I'm sorry He glanced at Victoria. I'm sorry for what was said. It's fine. It's not fine. You're family. You're always welcome here. And apparently you're the only one paying attention to what actually matters. He stood up. Marcus, Victoria, get your things. You're coming home. Everyone else, brunch is over. The Mason family has some private business to attend to. The aftermath took months. Marcus declared bankruptcy, lost the condo to foreclosure, and entered a residential gambling addiction program for 90 days. Victoria stayed with him, barely. They're in marriage counseling now, trying to rebuild trust that may never fully return. The loan sharks were handled. Dad hired lawyers and negotiators who settled the debts for 60 cents on the dollar. Expensive but better than the alternative. Marcus is working again, at a smaller firm with a smaller salary. He attends Gamblers Anonymous 3 times a week. He's on a cash-only budget managed by Victoria. And me? I'm still the boring bank analyst with the thrift store clothes and the old car. But I'm also the one who saved my brother from federal prison, and possibly worse. At the next family brunch, 3 months later, Victoria walked up to me. I'm sorry, she said quietly, for what I said, for how I treated you. You saved us, and I called you a beggar. You didn't know, I said. I didn't want to know. I wanted the big house, the perfect life, the image of success. I didn't care what it cost or whether it was real. She paused. You cared about what was real, even when we treated you like you were nothing. Your family, I said simply. That's what family does. No, that's what you do. That's what real success looks like, not the house or the car or the designer clothes. The character, the integrity, the courage to tell hard truths. She hugged me. I hugged her back. Marcus joined us. Thank you, he said. I know I didn't say it then. I was too angry, too ashamed, but thank you for caring enough to stop me. You're welcome. And Marcus, you're going to be okay. It'll take time, but you'll rebuild the right way this time. With your help. Always. Because that's what family does. Not the fake family that cares about appearances. The real family that cares about each other. The Forbes 30 Under 30 article dropped on a Wednesday morning. Tech entrepreneur Rachel Morrison, 29, disrupts fintech industry with AI-powered investment platform. Company valued at $340 million. The article included a photo of me in my corner office, another of our headquarters, and a sidebar listing my achievements. Youngest female CEO in fintech, patent holder for 3 algorithms, an early Bitcoin investor who turned $50,000 into $8 million. My phone started ringing at 7:47 a.m. First my brother, Rachel, is this article real? Then my sister, why didn't you tell us you were rich? Then, at 8:03 a.m., my father, family meeting, tonight. 6 p.m. sharp. We need to discuss some things. I stared at that last message for a long time. 2 years. That's how long it had been since my wedding, the one my parents refused to attend because I was marrying beneath our station. But 16 minutes after Forbes published my net worth, suddenly there were things to discuss. Let me take you back. I'm Rachel Morrison, and I grew up in the kind of family that valued appearances over everything. My father was a corporate lawyer at a prestigious firm. My mother sat on charity boards and organized galas. We lived in a mansion in the best neighborhood, drove luxury cars, and maintained an image of success. The problem? Most of it was smoke and mirrors. My parents were drowning in debt, mortgages, car loans, credit cards maxed out just to maintain their lifestyle. But nobody knew because the Morrisons never showed weakness. When I graduated from MIT with a computer science degree, they were disappointed I didn't go to Harvard Law. When I started working in tech instead of joining Dad's firm, they called it wasting my potential. When I began developing my own software, they said I was playing with computers instead of building a real career. And when I got engaged to Marcus, a high school teacher with a master's degree and a heart of gold, they lost it completely. A teacher? My mother had said, her voice dripping with disdain. Rachel, we raised you for better than this. Marcus is brilliant, kind, and he loves me. He makes $52,000 a year. My father interrupted. That's not a life. That's poverty with a college degree. We're not poor. We're happy. You're settling, and we won't support it. My father's voice was final. If you insist on marrying this man, don't expect us at the wedding. I thought he was bluffing. I sent invitations anyway. My parents RSVP'd, declined. So did my brother James and my sister Catherine, following Mom and Dad's lead as always. The wedding was beautiful anyway. A small ceremony in a garden, 50 friends, and Marcus's wonderful family. His mother walked me down the aisle. I cried, but not from joy alone. My family sent nothing. No card, no call, no acknowledgement that I'd gotten married. For 2 years, I'd reached out occasionally. Birthday texts that went unanswered. Holiday invitations ignored. I finally stopped trying 6 months ago. Until today. Until Forbes made my success impossible to ignore. You're not actually going, are you? Marcus asked, reading the text over my shoulder. Oh, I'm going, I said, making a phone call. But not alone. Rachel, what are you planning? I smiled at my husband. Remember when you asked if my investment portfolio included any real estate? Yeah. I wasn't entirely honest about what I purchased. I put the phone to my ear. David, it's Rachel Morrison. I need you and 2 associates at an address tonight. 6 p.m. Yes, security detail. I'll explain everything. I spent the day preparing, phone calls to my lawyer, my accountant, and my real estate manager. I printed documents, organized files, and got dressed in my best power suit, the Armani one that cost more than my parents spent on my entire childhood wardrobe. Marcus watched me with concern and curiosity. Are you going to tell me what's happening? Do you remember 18 months ago when that foreclosure investment opportunity came up? The one I said I passed on? Yeah. I didn't pass on it. I bought the property through my LLC. For $1.3 million, I acquired a mortgage that was 3 months from foreclosure. The property is worth about $2 million, but the owners were desperate. Marcus's eyes widened. Rachel, whose mortgage? I showed him the property address. That's your parents' house. Was their house? Technically, they've been my tenants for 18 months. They just don't know it because all the paperwork went through Davidson Holdings LLC, and they never bothered to check who bought their loan. Oh my God. They've been paying me $4,800 a month in rent, which doesn't even cover the mortgage interest, by the way. But I've been letting it slide because I didn't want to think about it. I kept hoping they'd reach out, that they'd apologize, that they care about me for reasons other than money. And now they've proven they only care because of Forbes. So we're going to have a conversation about family and consequences, and what happens when you treat people as disposable. I arrived at my parents' house at 6:07 p.m. in a chauffeured Tesla, with 3 security guards in suits. My brother's BMW was in the driveway. So was my sister's Mercedes. The whole family assembled for the emergency meeting. My mother opened the door, her smile bright and fake. Rachel, you look, oh my, are those bodyguards? Security detail. Standard practice for someone with my net worth. May we come in? She stepped aside, flustered. The security team stayed by the entrance while I walked into the living room where my family waited. My father stood immediately. Rachel, thank you for coming. We saw the Forbes article. 17 minutes after it published, I interrupted. That's how long it took for you to text me. 2 years of silence, then 17 minutes. We've been busy. For 2 years? Too busy to respond to a single text. Too busy to acknowledge your daughter got married? I smiled coldly. But not too busy to set up an emergency meeting when you found out I'm worth $47 million personally, plus equity in a $340 million company. The room went quiet. We wanted to reconnect, Catherine offered weakly. Family is important. Is it? Because family wasn't important enough to attend my wedding. Family wasn't important enough to meet Marcus. Family wasn't important when I was just a computer nerd with no money. I looked at each of them. But now that Forbes validated me, suddenly I'm worth your time. That's not fair, James protested. We had concerns about your choices. My choices are why I'm successful. Your choices are why you're drowning in debt and barely keeping up appearances. My father's face reddened. We're doing fine. You're $340,000 in debt, not counting your mortgage. Your cars are leased. Catherine's husband lost his job 4 months ago, but you're all pretending everything's fine. James, your consulting business made $23,000 last year. And you too. I looked at my parents. They're 3 months behind on property taxes and 6 weeks away from having your country club membership revoked for non-payment. How do you know? Mom started. Because I'm good at what I do. Research, data analysis, seeing patterns others miss. It's why I'm successful. I pulled out my folder, which brings me to why I'm really here. I laid the documents on their coffee table, the coffee table I technically owned. This is the mortgage for this property. The one you defaulted on 2 years ago. The one that was bought by an investment company to prevent foreclosure. Dad grabbed the papers. What is this? That investment company is mine, Davidson Holdings LLC. I've owned your mortgage for 18 months. You've been paying rent to your daughter. The daughter who wasn't worth showing up for. The color drained from my mother's face. No, that's not possible. It's all documented. When you defaulted, the bank bundled your mortgage with others and sold it at a loss. I bought the bundle, refinanced the other properties, and kept this one. Because even after you abandoned me at my wedding, I couldn't stand the thought of you being homeless. Rachel, sweetheart. Dad tried. Don't sweetheart me now. For 18 months, I could have evicted you. Could have foreclosed. Could have done exactly what you deserved. But I didn't. Because I kept hoping you'd prove me wrong, that you'd reach out because you missed me, not because you wanted something. We do miss you, Catherine said, crying now. You miss having access to someone successful. There's a difference. I pulled out another document. This is a notice of lease termination. You have 60 days to vacate the property. You're evicting us? Mom's voice was barely audible. I'm taking back my property. I'm selling it. Should get about $2 million based on the current market value. I'll clear about $600,000 profit after costs. Where are we supposed to go? James asked. I don't know. Figure it out, like I had to figure out my wedding without my family. Figure it out like I figured out how to build a company without your support. Figure it out like Marcus and I figured out our entire lives while you pretended we didn't exist. Rachel, please, my father's voice cracked. We made a mistake. We were wrong about Marcus, wrong about your career. You weren't wrong, you were cruel. There's a difference. Being wrong is an accident. What you did was deliberate. You chose your pride over your daughter. My mother stood up. We're still your parents. Biologically, yes, but parents show up. Parents support their children. Parents don't abandon them on their wedding day and then come running back when they're profitable. I nodded to my security team. Gentlemen, could you escort my family out of this property, please? What? Dad looked confused. This is our home. No, sir. This is Ms. Morrison's property. She's asked you to leave. The lead security guard was professional but firm. Please gather only essential items. You'll have access tomorrow with proper supervision to collect your belongings. You can't do this, James shouted. This is insane. This is consequences. I stayed seated while my family was ushered toward the door. You taught me that image matters more than love. That money matters more than family. That people are only valuable if they meet your standards. Well, Congratulations, I learned the lesson. My mother turned at the door, mascara running down her face. We're your family. How can you do this to us? How could you skip my wedding? I countered. How could you ignore me for 2 years? How could you only care when Forbes told you to? They had no answer. I watched security escort them out, my father protesting, my mother crying, my siblings in shock. Then I sat alone in the house I owned, surrounded by their expensive furniture that they'd now have to move, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no revenge high, just emptiness. My phone buzzed. Marcus, how did it go? I called him instead of texting. They're gone. Security escorted them out. How do you feel? Numb. I thought I'd feel vindicated or powerful or something. Instead, I just feel sad. Come home, Rach. Your real home, with me. I'm coming, but Marcus, I need you to do something for me tomorrow. Anything. Call a real estate agent. I want to sell this house as fast as possible. I don't want to own it anymore. It just reminds me of what I lost. Your family? No. My illusions about them. That's harder to lose than the people themselves. The next morning, I woke up to 47 missed calls and 89 text messages. My parents begging for another chance. Catherine apologizing. James offering to work things out. Extended family I hadn't heard from in years, all weighing in with opinions. I deleted them all without reading most of them. Instead, I called my real estate agent. List the property at $1.95 million. Price it to move fast. I want it sold within 30 days. That's aggressive pricing. We could get more if we wait. I don't want to wait. I want it gone. It's sold in 12 days. Full price, cash offer, quick close. I cleared a $627,000 profit. I donated it to a scholarship fund for students from low-income families pursuing STEM degrees. The announcement made the local news. My parents saw it. They called again. This time, I answered. How could you give away that money? My father demanded. That was a fortune. I have a fortune. I don't need money I made from my family's financial desperation. That felt dirty. So I gave it to kids who remind me of who I used to be, smart, ambitious, and unappreciated by the people who should have supported them most. We want to apologize, Mom said, her voice desperate. Really apologize. We were terrible parents. Yes, you were. Can we try again? Start over? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I don't know, I said honestly. You didn't just skip my wedding. You ignored me for 2 years. You only came back when I had something you wanted. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. We can change, maybe, but proving that takes time. It takes showing up when there's nothing in it for you. It takes caring about me when I'm not in Forbes. We'll do anything, Dad said. Then prove it. Marcus and I are having dinner next Sunday, 6 p.m. casual. Our apartment. If you show up, really show up, to know us and spend time with us and not to ask for anything, then maybe we can start talking. But if you come with expectations or agendas or anything other than genuine interest in our lives, don't bother. We'll be there, Mom promised. We'll see. Sunday came. Marcus and I set the table for 4, just in case. 6 o'clock passed, then 6:15, then 6:30. They're not coming, I said, trying to hide my disappointment. Marcus squeezed my hand. Then we have more lasagna for leftovers. At 6:47, the doorbell rang. My parents stood there, empty-handed, looking nervous. We're late, Dad said. Traffic was. You're here, I interrupted. That's what matters. We had dinner. It was awkward, stilted. My parents asked about my work, and I could tell they didn't understand half of it. But they tried. They asked about Marcus's teaching. They looked at our wedding photos, finally. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a magical reconciliation, but it was honest. And maybe that was enough for now. Thank you for coming, I said as they left. Thank you for giving us another chance, Mom replied. I didn't say you're welcome, because they hadn't earned that yet. But I didn't close the door on them either, because maybe some families are worth the long, hard work of rebuilding, even if it means starting from ruins. The accusation came during Sunday brunch at my mother's house. I was carefully pouring coffee when my mother's voice cut through the conversation like a knife. Your son emptied the trust fund. I looked up. Mom was standing, her face red, pointing at my 15-year-old son Daniel, who'd been quietly eating pancakes at the far end of the table. What? I set the coffee pot down carefully. My sister Natalie stood up quickly, her phone in her hand, her voice shaking with what sounded like rage. All $2.5 million, Lauren. Gone. The account balance is zero, and the last access was from Daniel's laptop. Daniel's fork clattered onto his plate. His face went white. I didn't. I never. His voice cracked. He looked at me, eyes wide with fear. Mom, I swear I didn't touch anything. My brother-in-law Marcus was already on his feet. This is unbelievable. A 15-year-old stealing from his own family? My uncle Robert shook his head. Kids these days and computers, they think they can get away with anything. I watched my son's hands start to tremble. He was 15, a sophomore in high school who spent his free time playing video games and building computers. He'd never even had a bank account with more than $200 in it. Daniel didn't take anything, I said quietly. The IP address traces to your house, Natalie said, her voice rising. The bank confirmed it. Your Wi-Fi network, his laptop. That doesn't mean. The trust fund administrator called me this morning, Mom interrupted. Someone with access credentials logged in and transferred everything. Every single penny. And the only person besides the three of us with access is Daniel. You gave him access last year, remember? For his birthday? So he could see his college fund. I had given Daniel view-only access to see his portion of the trust. $250,000 set aside for his education. But view-only meant exactly that. He couldn't move money. He couldn't authorize transfers. View-only access can't make transfers, I said. Unless someone gave him more access, Natalie said. Her mascara was smudged, like she'd been crying before she arrived. Or he. He's good with computers, right? Always talking about coding and programming. Daniel was trembling now, his whole body shaking. I didn't do anything. I don't even know how to, Mom, please. I walked over to my son and put my hand on his shoulder. It's okay. We'll figure this out. There's nothing to figure out, Marcus said. The money's gone. Your kid took it. The question is where he put it and how we get it back. I looked around the table. 12 family members, all staring at Daniel like he committed murder. My mother looked devastated. My uncle looked furious. Natalie looked like she wanted to cry. Only my Aunt Sarah looked uncertain. Are we sure about this? Daniel's always been such a good kid. Good kids don't steal $2.5 million, Marcus snapped. I pulled out my phone. I'm calling the trust administrator. I already talked to them, Natalie said. They confirmed the transfer happened from your IP address at midnight last night. Daniel's laptop. Then I'll talk to them myself. I walked into Mom's study and closed the door. My hands were steady as I dialed the number for Geneva Private Trust, the Swiss firm that managed our family trust. This is Lauren Mitchell. I need to speak to Bernard Klein immediately. Bernard, who'd managed our trust for 8 years, came on the line within 2 minutes. Ms. Mitchell, I was expecting your call. Your sister has been quite distressed this morning. Bernard, I need you to send me the complete transaction log for the past 6 months. Every withdrawal, every transfer, every login, everything. Of course. Though I should tell you, the investigation is quite clear. The transfer occurred at 11:47 p.m. last night from IP address 198.162. I know, my home network. But I need the full log. Can you email it immediately? It will take a few minutes to compile. I'll wait. I sat at Mom's desk, opened my laptop, and logged into my email. While I waited, I thought about the past 6 months. The trust had been established by my late father, $5 million divided among beneficiaries, Mom, Natalie, me, and funds for the grandchildren. The account had been stable for years, except it hadn't been $5 million when I'd last checked it 3 months ago. It had been around $3 million. I'd noticed but hadn't worried. Market fluctuations, I'd assumed. Bernard's email arrived 12 minutes later. The transaction log was a 47-page PDF. I opened it and started scrolling. The last transaction was indeed at 11:47 p.m. yesterday, a transfer of $2.5 million to an offshore account. The IP address showed my home network. But it wasn't from Daniel's laptop. The device ID was listed as iPhone 12 Pro, Nathalie M. I scrolled further back. More transfers. Smaller ones, $25,000 here, $50,000 there. All from Natalie's phone, all to the same offshore account. Then I saw the pattern. Weekly transfers. Every Wednesday night. For the past 18 months. I kept scrolling. The amounts increased over time. Started at $5,000, then $10,000, then $25,000. Recent transfers were $50,000 each. And the locations. The gates metadata was embedded in the transaction records. Bellagio Casino, Las Vegas. Wynn Casino, Las Vegas. Moon Grand, Las Vegas. Caesars Palace, Las Vegas. Every Wednesday, 18 months. Systematic withdrawals from a gambling addict. The final transfer, the $2.5 million, had been made from my IP addressed yes. But the device was Natalie's phone. She'd been at my house yesterday. She and Marcus had come over for dinner. She asked to use my Wi-Fi because her data wasn't working. She transferred the last of the accessible funds and then blamed my son. I saved the payoff to my laptop, closed it, and walked back to the dining room. The family was still there, the tension thick. Daniel sat with his head down, still trembling. Natalie was crying into Marcus's shoulder. Mom looked like she'd aged 10 years. Well, Natalie demanded, did they confirm it was Daniel? I opened my laptop and turned it toward the table. They confirmed the transfer happened from my Wi-Fi network, but not from Daniel's laptop. I pulled up the transaction log on my screen. The device was Natalie's iPhone 12 Pro. Natalie's face went from red to white in an instant. That's impossible. I don't even have the access credentials. You have full trustee access, just like Mom and me. Dad set it up that way. You've had it for 8 years. I scrolled to show the weekly transfers. Every Wednesday night for 18 months. Started at $5,000 per week. Escalated to $50,000. Geek's data shows you were at various Las Vegas casinos for every single transaction. The table went silent. Marcus pulled away from Natalie. What is she talking about? I turned the laptop toward him. Your wife has been systematically withdrawing money from the family trust fund for 18 months. She's taken approximately $2.5 million total. The withdrawals all happened from casino locations in Las Vegas. That's not. Natalie started, but her voice broke. Last night, she came to my house for dinner. She asked to use my Wi-Fi. She transferred the last accessible funds, the remaining $2.5 million, and then blamed my 15-year-old son this morning. Marcus was staring at the screen, scrolling through the transactions. His jaw was tight. Las Vegas. You told me those trips were for work conferences. Marcus, I can't explain. You stole from your own family? Mom's voice was barely a whisper. And you blamed Daniel? Daniel lifted his head, tears streaming down his face. I told you I didn't do it. I walked over to my son and hugged him. I know you didn't. Natalie was crying now, her perfect makeup running down her face. I had a problem. I was going to pay it back. I just needed time. You blamed my son, I said quietly. You made him tremble with fear. You made everyone in this family think a 15-year-old boy was a thief, just to cover up your gambling addiction. Marcus stood up. Get your things. We're leaving. Marcus, please. Now, Natalie, we're going home, and then you're going to tell me everything. Every lie, every trip, every dollar. I can't. Then I'm calling my lawyer from the car. The word lawyer seemed to break something in Natalie. She started sobbing, her whole body shaking. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It started small. Just a few hands of poker. Then it got bigger. I kept thinking I'd win it back. I'd replace everything before anyone noticed. But you didn't win, I said. You lost $2.5 million of family money, and when you finally got caught, you blamed a child. Mom sat down heavily. I need everyone to leave, except Lauren and Daniel. The family filed out slowly. Marcus practically dragged Natalie to the door. She was still crying, still apologizing. He wasn't looking at her. Uncle Robert stopped at the door. I'm sorry we accused Daniel. We should have listened. After they left, Mom looked at Daniel. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I should have believed you. Daniel wiped his eyes. It's okay, Grandma. It's not okay. I'm your grandmother. I'm supposed to protect you, not accuse you. She looked at me. What happens now? Now I call the bank and report the theft. Then I call our lawyer. Natalie stole from a family trust. That's a crime. She's your sister. She's a gambling addict who blamed my child. I can forgive a lot, Mom, but not that. Mom nodded slowly. The money, can we recover it? Maybe some. The offshore account can be traced, but most of it's probably gone. Gambled away over 18 months. What about Daniel's college fund? That's separate. She couldn't touch it. He still has his $250,000. Mom reached over and took Daniel's hand. I'm so proud of you for staying calm, for not breaking down. I was really scared, Daniel admitted. Everyone was looking at me like I'd done something terrible. You did nothing wrong, your aunt did, and she'll face the consequences. Over the next week, the situation unfolded exactly as I'd expected. Marcus filed for divorce on day 3. The gambling addiction and the theft were apparently the final straws in what he later told me had been a troubled marriage for years. Mom contacted our family lawyer, who confirmed that Natalie had committed multiple felonies, theft from a trust, fraud, and potentially wire fraud for the offshore transfers. Natalie checked herself into a gambling addiction treatment facility in Arizona. Her lawyer was working on a plea deal, voluntary repayment of whatever could be recovered, treatment, and probation instead of prison time. The offshore account investigation recovered $340,000. The rest was gone. Casino losses, mostly. Some luxury purchases. A leak showed she'd been living a double life, designer clothes, expensive jewelry, high-stakes poker rooms. Her perfect marriage had been a facade. Marcus told me later that he'd known something was wrong, but had never imagined the scale of it. Daniel went back to school. His friends never knew what had happened. But he was quieter than before, more careful about who he trusted. One afternoon, he came into my office while I was working. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. Did you know it was Aunt Natalie before you called the bank? I thought about that. I suspected. The numbers didn't add up. The accusation felt desperate. And your aunt had been acting strange for months. But I didn't know for sure until I saw the transaction log. Would you have believed me if there wasn't proof? Yes. How do you know? Because I'm your mother, and I know you. You're not capable of that kind of deception. He nodded. Aunt Natalie was, though. Yes, she was. Does that mean family members can't be trusted? No. It means addiction makes people do terrible things, and desperate people look for scapegoats. But most family members aren't like that. Most people don't steal and lie and blame innocent kids. I hope so. After he left, I sat at my desk and thought about that morning. About 12 people ready to believe a 15-year-old was a criminal. About a sister who'd burned through $2.5 million and then tried to destroy her nephew to save herself. Some betrayals are financial. Some are moral. And some are both. The next Sunday, I got a text from Natalie. She was still in treatment but wanted to apologize directly to Daniel. I asked Daniel if he wanted to talk to her. He thought about it for a long time. Maybe eventually, he said. But not yet. I'm still too angry. That's fair. Do you think she'll ever be okay? I don't know. I hope so. But that's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to move forward. Without her. For now, yes, without her. The trust fund was restructured, new administrator, new rules. No single person could access more than a set amount per month, multiple approval requirements for large transfers. Mom set aside additional funds for Daniel's college as compensation for what he'd endured. And my sister's perfect marriage, her perfect life, her perfect facade, all of it crumbled in those minutes when the transaction log loaded on my laptop screen. Sometimes the truth doesn't set you free. Sometimes it just shows everyone who you really are. And sometimes that's justice enough. The fork hit my shoulder and clattered onto my plate. I looked up to see my sister Jessica's 7-year-old son, Aiden, staring at me with that particular expression children get when they're repeating something an adult told them. Mom says you're the help, he announced to the entire Thanksgiving table. She says that's why you don't have nice things like us. The dining room went silent for exactly 2 seconds. Then my brother-in-law, Marcus, laughed. My mother joined in. My Uncle Robert actually slapped the table. Jessica picked up her wine glass, smirking. Aiden, sweetie, that's not nice to say out loud. But you said. I know what I said. Just eat your turkey. I looked around the table. 14 people. My entire extended family. Every single one of them either laughing or trying not to smile. I stood up, folded my napkin, and placed it beside my plate. Where are you going? Mom asked, still chuckling. We haven't even had pie yet. I didn't answer. I collected my coat from the hall closet and walked out of Jessica's house. The house I'd helped her buy 4 years ago, when her credit score was 580 and no bank would touch her. The November air was cold against my face as I drove home. My phone buzzed at 10:34 p.m. Jessica, seriously? You left because of a joke? Aiden's 7. He doesn't know better. I stared at the message. Aiden didn't know better because Jessica had taught him to see me as less than family, as staff, as someone who existed to serve them. Another message. This is so typical of you. Always making everything about yourself. It was Thanksgiving and you ruined it by storming out. Then, know your place. We're family, but that doesn't mean we're equals. Some of us worked hard to get where we are. I read that last message 3 times. Know your place. I opened my filing cabinet and pulled out a folder labeled Jessica Property. Inside were the documents from 4 years ago, the private mortgage agreement, the promissory note, and the deed of trust listing me as the beneficiary. When Jessica and Marcus had been desperate to buy a house before their second child was born, they'd come to me. Their credit was destroyed from Marcus's failed business venture. They'd been denied by 6 different lenders. I'd offered them a solution. I would buy the house outright for $385,000. They would pay me monthly mortgage payments of $2,400, less than they'd been paying in rent. After 5 years of on-time payments, they could refinance in their own names and buy the house from me at the original price. They'd signed everything my lawyer drafted. They'd been so grateful. "You're saving our lives," Jessica had cried. I'll never forget this. 4 years later, she'd forgotten completely. She'd convinced herself she owned that house, that she'd earned it, that I was just her struggling little sister who'd somehow scraped together enough to help with the down payment. The mortgage agreement had a standard acceleration clause. If the borrower was more than 30 days late on payment, I could call the entire remaining balance due immediately. They were currently 47 days late. I'd been sending reminders, which Jessica had ignored. I typed a response to her text. "I do know my place. Check your mortgage documents." Her reply came instantly. "What are you talking about?" I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and drafted an email to my attorney. "David, please prepare a notice of default and acceleration for the property at 847 Maple Ridge Drive. The borrowers are 47 days past due on their mortgage payment. Per the terms of our agreement, I'm exercising my right to call the full loan balance of $298,000 due within 10 days. Please file all necessary paperwork and initiate foreclosure proceedings if payment is not received. Best, Nina." I hit send at 11:43 p.m. My attorney responded at 6:15 a.m. He was always an early riser. "Documents prepared. We'll courier the notice to their address this morning and file with the county by noon. Are you sure about this?" I replied, completely sure. At 6:47 a.m., my phone started ringing. Jessica. I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 6:52, at 7:03, at 7:15, at 7:30, a text from Marcus. "Nina, what the hell is going on? Our bank just called saying our mortgage is in default and the full amount is due in 10 days. This has to be a mistake." I replied, "It's not a mistake. I'm your mortgage holder. You're 47 days late. I'm calling the loan due." Marcus. "You're our what?" Me. "Read the documents you signed 4 years ago. You don't have a bank mortgage. You have a private mortgage with me. I own your house." 3 minutes of silence. Then, "This is insane. You can't do this over a stupid argument at Thanksgiving." Me. "This isn't about Thanksgiving. This is about 47 days of missed payments and years of being treated like hired help by people living in a house I own." Jessica called again. I answered this time. "Nina, please, this is crazy. We can't come up with $298,000 in 10 days. You should have thought about that before teaching your son to throw silverware at me. He's 7. Kids do stupid things. Kids repeat what their parents teach them. He called me the help because that's what you call me. Probably daily." I never. She stopped. We both knew she was lying. "Jessica, I've been sending you payment reminders for 47 days. You've ignored every single one. You had time to host Thanksgiving for 14 people, but not time to pay your mortgage? We've been tight on money, Marcus's business. Marcus just bought a boat. I saw the photos on Facebook." Silence. "The notice of default will arrive by courier this morning," I said. "You have 10 days to pay the full balance, or I begin foreclosure proceedings. Those are your options. You're really going to make your niece and nephew homeless. You really threw your children into this conversation after teaching one of them to assault me at dinner?" I hung up. By 9 a.m., my phone had 17 missed calls from various family members, Mom, Uncle Robert, even my cousin Jennifer, who I hadn't spoken to in 2 years. At 10:30, my mother showed up at my apartment. I watched her through the peephole for a full minute before opening the door. "We need to talk," she said, pushing past me into my living room. "Hello, Mom." "Don't hello, Mommy." Jessica is hysterical. She says you're foreclosing on her house over a misunderstanding at Thanksgiving. It's not a misunderstanding. Eden threw a fork at me and called me the help because that's what Jessica taught him. The entire table laughed. Then Jessica texted me to know my place. Mom waved her hand dismissively. Jessica was upset. You know how she gets when she's been drinking. You can't throw her out of her house because of that. It's not her house. It's my house. She makes mortgage payments to me, payments she's 47 days late on. My mother's face went blank. What are you talking about? 4 years ago, when Jessica couldn't get a mortgage, I bought her house outright. She's been paying me monthly. She's essentially my tenant with an option to buy. That's not. Jessica said you helped with the down payment. Jessica lied, or convinced herself of a different story. But legally, I own that house. She's in default. I have every right to foreclose. Mom sat down heavily on my couch. I had no idea. Of course you didn't, because it was easier to believe I was the struggling one, the one who needed family charity. Meanwhile, I own a $385,000 house that Jessica lives in. Nina, you're being vindictive. Yes. What happened at Thanksgiving was wrong, but you're going to make your sister homeless to prove a point. I'm going to enforce a legal contract that she's been violating for 47 days while treating me like domestic staff. She doesn't treat you like Mom. She taught her son to call me the help. He threw a fork at me. She told me to know my place. When exactly do I get to stand up for myself? My mother looked at her hands. What do you want? An apology? I want $298,000 in 10 days, or I want my house back. Those are the only two options. That's impossible. They don't have that kind of money. Then I should start packing. Mom stood up, her face hardening. You've become cruel, Nina. I don't know when it happened, but somewhere along the way, you lost your compassion. I lost my compassion around the time my family started treating me like I was beneath them, while living in a house I provided. She left without another word. Day 3 after the notice, Jessica's lawyer called my lawyer. They wanted to negotiate. David called me with the offer. They can pay $50,000 immediately and resume monthly payments, including catching up on the late payments over 6 months. They're asking you to withdraw the acceleration. No. Nina, I have to advise you that foreclosure is expensive and time-consuming. If they're offering to cure the default, they had 47 days to cure the default. They had years to treat me with basic respect. The answer is no. It's your decision, but... David, how many cases have you handled where someone had their family laugh while a child threw silverware at them? He was quiet for a moment. Point taken. I'll inform their counsel that the offer is rejected. Day 5. Marcus showed up at my office. Security called before letting him up. You can give him 5 minutes in the conference room, I told them. But I want security present. Marcus looked haggard when I entered the room. 2 security guards stood by the door. Nina, please. We'll lose everything. The house, our equity, our kids' stability. Jessica made a mistake. She's sorry. Is she? Because she hasn't apologized. She's sent lawyers, family members, and now you. But she hasn't said she's sorry. She's terrified. She doesn't know what to say. She knew exactly what to say when she texted me to know my place. Marcus put his head in his hands. We can't come up with $298,000. We can maybe scrape together $75,000 if we liquidate everything. Please, isn't there some way? Marcus, did you know she called me the help? Not just at Thanksgiving. Apparently it's a regular thing. Did you know about that? He didn't answer. You did know. You've heard her say it. And you said nothing. Nina, I'm trying to keep my family in their home. Your family lived just fine in a rental before I bought them a house. They'll survive in a rental again, maybe a smaller one this time. The kids. The kids will learn that actions have consequences, that you can't throw forks at people, that you can't treat family members like servants. Those are valuable lessons, Marcus. He left the conference room without another word. Day 8, Jessica finally called, not to negotiate, not to threaten. She was crying. Nina, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I've been horrible to you. You've been nothing but generous, and I treated you like the help? She sobbed. Yes, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I was jealous. Maybe I couldn't accept that you were doing better than me. Maybe I needed to believe you were beneath me, because otherwise I'd have to admit I needed you. I sat in my apartment, phone pressed to my ear, listening to my sister cry. I taught Aiden to disrespect you, she continued. I made fun of you to my friends. I told everyone you were struggling when you were the one keeping us afloat. I'm a terrible person. Yes, I said quietly, you were. Was. I'm not foreclosing, Jessica. Silence on the other end. I'm restructuring your loan. You'll pay $2,800 per month instead of $2,400. That's the current missed payments spread over the remaining term. You'll pay on time every month, and at the end of 5 years, you can still buy the house from me at the original price. Nina, I don't understand. I'm angry. I'm hurt. But I'm not cruel. And I don't want Aiden and Emma growing up in rentals because their mother was awful at Thanksgiving dinner. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm not finished. You're going to apologize to me in front of the entire family at Christmas dinner. You're going to explain what you did, what you said, and why it was wrong. You're going to tell everyone that I own your house and have been supporting you for 4 years. Nina, those are my terms. Monthly payments on time and a public apology, or the foreclosure proceeds. She was quiet for a long moment. Okay, I'll do it. And Jessica, if I ever hear you call me the help again, if I ever hear that Aiden has been taught to disrespect me, if you're ever even one day late on a payment, I won't hesitate next time. I understand. After we hung up, I called David and told him to withdraw the foreclosure proceedings and draft a new loan modification agreement. Then I sat in my apartment and thought about Thanksgiving dinner, about a fork hitting my shoulder, about 14 people laughing, about knowing my place. Some lessons cost $298,000 in stress and fear. Some lessons cost watching your sister cry as she realizes who actually holds the power. And some lessons are learned at Christmas dinner in front of the whole family when the person you called the help turns out to be the one who owns your home. The person you threw forks at. The person who could have taken everything but chose mercy instead. Not because she was weak, but because she knew her place. And her place was above needing revenge. I was pulling out my chair at the dining table when my nephew's foot shot out and kicked it away from me. The chair scraped loudly across the hardwood floor. Servants don't sit with us, 11-year-old Carter announced, looking directly at me. Mom said so. The Sunday dinner conversation stopped. 18 family members, my entire extended family, stared at the scene unfolding. My sister Vanessa smiled into her wine glass. Carter, that's not polite. But you said Aunt Marga is basically the help. You said she serves us. Uncle Richard laughed first, then my brother-in-law, then my cousin Jennifer. Within seconds, the entire table was laughing. Not uncomfortable chuckling, genuine laughter. My mother covered her mouth, but her shoulders shook. Carter looked pleased with himself, foot still positioned to kick the chair if I tried to pull it back. I looked at my sister. She met my eyes, still smiling, and shrugged as if to say, "Kids, what can you do?" I picked up my purse from the entry table and walked out the front door without saying a word. Behind me, I heard Uncle Richard say, "Well, that was dramatic," followed by more laughter. I sat in my car for a moment before starting the engine. The house I'd just left, the sprawling colonial where Vanessa hosted these dinners, looked warm and inviting through the windows. Inside, my family was sitting down to a meal, probably already forgetting I'd been there. I drove home. At 9:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. Vanessa, finally gone. 2 words. Not, "Are you okay?" Not sorry about Carter, just finally gone. I stared at those words for a full minute. Then I walked to my home office and unlocked the filing cabinet where I kept my most important documents. 3rd drawer down, a folder labeled Harrison Family Trust. I'd established the trust 7 years ago, not long after I'd sold my tech company for $47 million. I'd been 29, suddenly wealthy, and wanted to ensure my family was taken care of. The trust held $12 million, enough to generate substantial annual income for the beneficiaries. Vanessa received $120,000 annually. Her 3 children each had education funds worth $500,000. My brother, Thomas, got $80,000 annually. His 2 kids had similar education accounts. My mother received $60,000 yearly. Various cousins, nieces, and nephews, all receiving distributions or had funds set aside. The trust documents were clear. I was the grantor and trustee. I had full discretionary authority to add or remove beneficiaries. The trust was revocable at my sole discretion. My family believed the money came from a distant relative, great-uncle Bernard, who had supposedly left a fortune when he died. I never corrected them. It was easier than explaining that I'd funded it myself. They thought I was the struggling single woman who worked in tech at some vague middle management job. Meanwhile, I'd exited my company as co-founder and CEO, invested wisely, and built a portfolio worth north of $60 million. I pulled up my lawyer's contact information and sent an email at 10:03 p.m. David, please prepare immediate revocation documents for the Harrison Family Trust. I want all beneficiaries removed and the trust dissolved effective immediately. Transfer all assets to my personal accounts. Process this tonight if possible. Marga. David called at 10:17 p.m. Marga, I just saw your email. Are you absolutely certain about this? Completely. This trust supports your entire family, your sister, your brother, their children. I'm aware. What happened? I told him about dinner, about Carter kicking the chair, about servants don't sit with us, about 18 people laughing, about Vanessa's text. Silence on his end. Then Jesus Christ. Can you process the revocation tonight? I can draft the documents and file them electronically. The trust administrator can execute the transfers by morning. But Marga, this is $12 million. This is going to devastate them. They've already received distributions for this quarter. Those cleared last week, so they got their money for the next 3 months. After that, nothing. You're giving them 3 months' notice? I'm giving them more than they gave me. They took about 3 seconds to laugh at me being physically excluded from the family table. All right, I'll process everything tonight. You'll see confirmation by 6 a.m. After we hung up, I typed a response to Vanessa, like your inheritance. It turned off my phone and went to bed. At 6:14 a.m., my phone was already ringing when I turned it on. Vanessa, I let it ring through. She called again immediately. Again. By 6:30, she'd called 14 times. The email from David arrived at 6:22 a.m. Trust revocation complete. All assets transferred to your accounts. Beneficiaries will see 0 balances when they check today. Documents filed with the county. It's done. At 6:45, a text from Vanessa. Call me right now. Something's wrong with the trust account. I didn't respond. My brother Thomas called at 7:02. I answered. Margot, what the hell is going on? I just checked the trust account and it shows 0. The whole thing is empty. That's correct. What do you mean, that's correct? Where's the money? I revoked the trust. The money's back in my accounts. Your accounts? That's not your money. That's family money, from Great Uncle Bernard. There is no Great Uncle Bernard Thomas. I made him up. I funded that trust 7 years ago with my own money, $12 million of my money, and I've dissolved it. Silence. That's not possible. Check the trust documents. I'm listed as grantor and trustee. The trust was revocable at my discretion. I exercised that discretion last night. Why would you do this? Because last night your nephew physically prevented me from sitting at the dinner table. Because he announced that servants don't sit with the family. Because 18 people, including you, laughed. Because Vanessa texted me finally gone, like she was celebrating getting rid of me. Margot, Carter's 11 years old. He meant exactly what Vanessa taught him. That I'm beneath you all, that I'm the help. And you know what? I'm done paying people who think I'm their servant. This is insane. Vanessa depends on that money. The kids' college funds should have been protected by their parents, not their aunt who apparently doesn't deserve a chair at the table. I hung up. By 8 a.m., I had 37 missed calls. By 9 a.m., someone was pounding on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole. Vanessa, still in her pajamas, hair uncombed, face blotchy from crying. I didn't open the door. Marga, open this door right now. We need to talk. Her voice was shrill, panicked. I waited. The trust is empty. $12 million is gone. Carter's college fund, Emma's, Jackson's, all of it. The accounts show 0. I still didn't open the door. This is because of last night? Because of a stupid joke? She was crying now. You're going to destroy my children's future over a joke? I called through the door. It wasn't a joke, Vanessa. Your son physically kicked a chair to prevent me from sitting down. He said servants don't sit with the family. You smiled. Everyone laughed. Then you texted me finally gone. That wasn't humor. That was cruelty. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it? You always make things awkward at family dinners. You never talk to anyone. You just sit there judging us. I sit there quietly because every time I open my mouth, Someone makes a comment about me being single, or childless, or working too much. Last month at Mom's birthday, you told everyone I was married to my laptop. 3 months ago at Easter, Uncle Richard asked if I was a lesbian because I don't date. I've learned to stay quiet. So you're punishing my children because your feelings were hurt. I'm stopping financial support for people who treat me like hired help. That's not punishment. That's consequence. Margot, please. That money, it's not just fun money. I budget around it. The kids' college funds are their entire future. My annual distribution covers Emma's private school tuition, Carter's hockey league, Jackson's. You should have thought about that before teaching your 11-year-old to kick chairs and announce that I'm not worthy of sitting with the family. He's a child. He was repeating something I said without context. What context makes servants don't sit with us acceptable? Silence from the other side of the door. Then, you're really not going to fix this? There's nothing to fix. The trust is dissolved. The money is mine. It was always mine. We'll sue. We'll get lawyers. I am grantor and trustee of a revocable discretionary trust. I have absolute legal authority to dissolve it. Any lawyer will tell you that. Save your money. I heard her slide down against the door, sobbing. I felt a twist in my chest but didn't open the door. After 10 minutes, she left. Over the next week, the family assault came in waves. My mother showed up on day 2, begging me to reconsider. Think of the children, Margot. They're innocent. The children watched 18 adults laugh at me being physically excluded from a table. They're learning that cruelty is acceptable. Maybe this will teach them differently. Thomas sent a 5-page email detailing all the ways the family had been there for me over the years, conveniently forgetting that most of those instances involved me writing checks. Uncle Richard left a voicemail calling me a vindictive bitch who was destroying the family over nothing. Vanessa sent 43 texts over 3 days. They started with apologies, moved to bargaining, then landed on threats. I'll tell everyone what you did. The whole family will cut you off. Mom will never speak to you again. You'll regret this for the rest of your life. I didn't respond to any of them. On day 8, my cousin Jennifer called. She'd been at the dinner, laughed along with everyone else, and received a modest annual distribution from the trust. Margot, I need to say something. I'm not calling to beg for money back. I'm calling to apologize. I was silent, surprised. What happened at dinner was awful. I laughed because everyone else was laughing, and I didn't want to make waves. But I've been thinking about it all week. Carter physically prevented you from sitting down. He announced you weren't worthy of eating with the family, and we all just laughed. Yes. That was wrong, fundamentally wrong, and Vanessa's text, finally gone, that was cruel. You didn't overreact. We were horrible to you. Thank you for saying that. I know I don't deserve to ask this, but would you consider talking to Vanessa? Not about the money, just about what happened? I think she genuinely doesn't understand how bad it was. Jennifer, she texted me, finally gone. She understood exactly what she was doing. You're right, I'm sorry. I hate seeing the family fall apart. The family fell apart when everyone decided I was beneath them. I'm just making the financial reality match the social one. After we hung up, I sat in my apartment and thought about Carter, 11 years old, being taught that some people don't deserve chairs at the table, being taught that family can be divided into those who serve and those who are served. I opened my laptop and drafted an email to David. David, I want to establish 3 new education trusts, $500,000 each for Carter, Emma, and Jackson. The funds will be accessible when they turn 25, not 18. Conditions. They must complete a 4-year degree and 1 year of volunteer service work. The trust will be managed by an independent trustee, not me. And Vanessa will have no access to or knowledge of them until the kids turn 18. I don't want them punished for their parents' behavior, but I want them to learn something about service before they get this money. Draft the documents. Margot. I hit send, then opened a new message to Vanessa. Your children's original education funds are gone, but I've established new ones under different terms. They'll learn about them when they turn 18. The funds will require them to earn degrees and complete service work before accessing the money. I won't tell you the amounts. You'll have to trust that I've taken care of them, despite you teaching your son that I'm the help. As for your annual distribution and everyone else's, those are gone permanently. Get used to living on what you actually earn. And Vanessa? I'm not the one who destroyed this family. You did that when you taught your son to kick chairs. I sent it before I could reconsider. Her response came within minutes. "I hope you're happy being alone with your money." I replied, "I'm happier than I was trying to sit at a table where I wasn't welcome." I blocked her number, turned off my phone, and looked around my quiet apartment. No family dinners. No holiday obligations. No more pretending that writing checks made me worthy of basic human respect. The next morning, I donated $5 million to an organization that provided meals for homeless families, people who understood what it meant to be excluded from tables, people who knew the difference between servants and family. Some people inherit wealth. Some people inherit cruelty. And some people learn, eventually, that you can't buy respect with trust funds. But you can stop funding disrespect. One kick chair at a time.